They've been waiting 2 weeks for this. A lot of Australians and South Africans in the crowd, and it'll be Australia's centre pass with Carissa Dalwood to get us going in the World Netball Championship final for 1995. Straight to Cusack. And Borlase will put up the first shot. Certainly very strict straight away on the defenders. He's the umpire, and Australia first away. Just to rework the midcourt to how we were used to seeing it in Australia, with Harbison at centre. And Irene van Dijk.
She played that very quickly. She was aware that if time wasn't called for the injury, it would have been a 3-second call against her, so very quick to get up and play it. A lot of congestion through the midcourt. You see South Africa really putting the pressure on in defence, and they're quite rugged in defence. There's been quite a few physical challenges from them.
Well, it looked like nothing was on for Cusack, but finally she made some space for herself.
Nervous opening shot for Nikki Cusack, but they'll come with the next one. South Africa with a chance for a turnover.
I really feel if Australia has a big advantage, it has to be in the midcourt. Feel at the pace of Dalwood, O'Donnell and McInnes. Another nervous shot from the Australians.
Yes, well, who can blame them? I've got goosebumps on my goosebumps just watching them. A lot at stake for them, and it's one thing to prepare for this, and they've done that brilliantly. It's another to be out there with the task of doing it.
A couple of poor options from both sides. Now Cusack.
Steadies, takes a little bit longer with that one to make sure, and it wasn't absolutely happy about it, but it did drop.
You can almost throw results out the window once you get to a final. There's so much at stake. Anything can happen to the mental side of the game.
I think that's been the comment around the area that at their best, Australia's probably a 15-20 goal better team, but when you put it out in a final with emotions running a lot of the decisions, it can really narrow that margin.
Kiwi leads out. Now Van Dijk.
See Ellis working hard to shuffle position. She's going to really want to try and work from the front and be deceptive in what space she allows the South African feeders to think is available.
So 2-2 and a couple of minutes gone.
Laurie Kiwi, South Africa's goal attack, deep down on the transverse line, helping in defence. Steady opening from Borlase. 89.6% through the rounds, and she's not letting Australia down in the opening of the final.
Floppers to Harbison. High ball up for Van Dijk. (3-3), and Van Dijk has all of South Africa's goals. Might run that way for a while.
Beautiful high ball put in the back space to Van Dijk.
At the other end, Cusack. Both sides starting to look a little more composed out there. Kiwi, Harbison.
Dalwood, a fine defensive centre, so she'll really be putting the pressure on Dominique Harbison, who has the advantage in height, but I don't think has the athleticism of Dalwood, nor the skill. And that's one of the misfeeds Australia's been waiting for. Ellis quick to capitalise.
But to give it back also, Harbison to Harmon. O'Donnell on the floor up the court. She's all right, though.
And that ball, not a good delivery to Van Dijk, but she comes away with it. Other thing that will be interesting to note, Steve, is match fitness. Australia taking great care to shuffle the pack and rest players, but to South Africa running a similar midcourt most matches. Harbison with quite a workload throughout the event.
We could mention at this time, and of course the rotation of players severely affected by the injury to Vicky Wilson. So Borlase, Cusack and Avellino doing a lot of work. Wilson was only playing 2.5 games or so before the terrible injury against New Zealand.
Yes, and if you think back to that game, and we commented after it, the expressions on the faces of the Australian girls when they realised that the injury to Wilson was serious, but they really recovered quickly, and as beautiful intercepts taken by Floppers.
Well, you wouldn't expect to see this many turnovers from either team the way they've been playing, but this is the pressure of the final.
Harbison putting it out to the side.
O'Donnell. Borlase. Shooting over Kotzer. And Australia gets the break. 6-4. And with the centre pass. All the Australian fans here have come decorated.
Well, Kotzer's going to have little joy if she sits behind Borlase. Borlase just working front position, a nice wide spread on the feet so she gets good position close to the post.
Contact call goes against Kloppers, and Borlase does not miss. Bit of breathing space. Oh, touched away by Ellis, swooped on by McInnes, but can only give it back to South Africa. And Van Dijk. Well, those legs are so long, if she anchors a toe anywhere near the post, she can pull it back there. And she does prefer to shoot from close range.
High ball from Kloppers, but doesn't have the height, and it's got to use the space behind Van Dijk.
Quickly over to Cusack. And Australia maintains a 3-goal lead. Nearly 6 minutes gone. Dalwood slaps it out the back. Marlene Wagner.
South Africa's going to have to maintain a lot of discipline to work the ball down to the circle and be steady. Filkey, wonderful intercept, backed up by Dalwood, and Australia so quick to establish the drive down court.
And the crowd enjoying the free-flowing play from Australia. And the contact against Dominic Harbison.
South Africa attracting a lot of whistle.
Coolly taken by Jenny Borlase. Jenny's mother and father both here. Come a long way from somewhere near Port Lincoln in South Australia.
Well, Borlase was really just holding both defenders to allow Cusack the move, and they stayed on it far too long, drew the penalty as well, so they're going to have to make some adjustments in defence. Cusack just too slippery. She's a beautiful mover and uses the dodge really well.
Harbison, Van Dijk.
Good hands from Van Dijk.
Ellis made a run at it and has the rebound. O'Donnell, a lot of space opening up across the centre third. Dalwood has it taken away from her.
Unusual that the advantage call would be played there when they were on the circle edge, and it was quite a strong contact on Dalwood.
Oh, no, I agree with Jan Carlton. If the offending player had barreled out the back of the court, she had possession, let her play on.
Well, she lost possession from where she was, actually.
Yeah, but she got the ball back.
Who cares? It's 11-5.
Borlase. Cusack.
Well, she tried to deceive the South African defence, but they were watching closely.
Still Australia's ball. Kurtz are awake to all these moves. She's having a pretty good first quarter, but still Australia out by 6.
Again, attention paid to Borlase and little to Cusack, and she'll make them pay.
Well, Cusack shooting 78% through the rounds, and she does give away a little bit of height to the two South African defenders, but I think she more than makes up for that with mobility.
South Africa missing the timing through the mid-court. Both their feeders offering to the same space, so they've lost some timing. And I would think the confidence just knocked a little in the opening stages of this match.
Keevy, is this the first shot? Doesn't matter, it's a miss.
Keevy on 67% through the round, so accuracy is not her strong point.
And Dominic Harbison took a heavy fall out the side of the court there, landed almost in the lap of the cameraman.
She's charging to try and keep the ball in play, but Cusack with the same intention.
Cusack was there first. So, what's Harbison done? Just turned an ankle, I think. And out comes physio Linda Mitchell. Well, I know Simone McInnes was absolutely tickled to receive faxes from the Geelong Football Club one in particular from Gary Ablett. So hello to everyone back in Geelong. And 12-5, the side is up. And Simone McInnes at wing defence, certainly one of Australia's great players over the last few years, and one of those defending positions where she doesn't get enough accolades, really.
Oh no, she's just anchored that spot on wing defence for Australia. She's so tight and the workload in attack so high that you can't think about replacing her from a big match. And she's had a strong championship, and what a lead for Australia to open up 12-5. Jill McIntosh would be delighted with the start, aware that there's a long way to go in this final.
Harbison put beside Dalwood, and Australia looking for an 8-goal lead. Touch from Zale, pushes it out of court, but she was also offside.
Offside, free pass Australia.
And one against Jenny Borlase. The New Zealand team, having secured the bronze medal yesterday, watching, well, in the bleachers, that's way up the back. And they're cheering for Australia. That's nice. We thought that might happen.
Wonderful intercept then from Carissa Darwood, turning the ball over for Australia. And yes, it's a first for Australia to have the Kiwis and pretty well most of the crowd supporting them. So long favourites in this event, they often draw the crowd against them because they'd like to see change, but I think the entire crowd here has aligned itself with Australia. Probably the last time we'll see the Kiwis do that.
Well, I think they were a little birdie on South Africa, or putting them across into Australia's pool. 5 left, first quarter. Australia by 7. Another turnover.
Beautiful work from Lizzie Ellis. Again, the feed dropped a little short, and she was there. Great position, great timing, prepared to eat anything that's an error.
Australians getting a little greedy on their options. It took a while to come down court, and there were players available. They were looking for a better option.
Filkey was caught deep down court then, and Ellis knew that the chance was on to intercept the wide ball to Kiwi. Kiwi was standing still. Of course, as soon as she did that move, she left Van Dijk alone in the circle, but South Africa not looking to that.
Harbison.
You see again Filkey and Ellis sitting back but watching the forward play around the circle, ready to run out on it. So a very mobile defence for Australia.
Kiwi. And she gets her first goal of the final with some 4 minutes left in the first quarter. So they'd be looking for more output from her.
Strong positioning from Carissa Darwood to hit the top of the circle and hold.
Cusack given the shot. So after an even start, saw them go goal for the first 5 minutes. Australia has opened them up.
I wonder how Irene Van Dijk is feeling. She went to Ellis again, but Van Dijk went to the press conference saying that she was far more comfortable playing the Australian defence than the New Zealand. She thought the New Zealand combination of Many and Gold was a superior defensive team.
Well, what a beautiful move, Australia, as Cusack drives to the post. 14-6. And the South Africans have cause to be worried.
Look at Ellis, front position, timing superb, and the chase.
Well, I think Liz Ellis is a better player too than 4 months ago, and I think Irene may have made the mistake of underrating her.
And I think of having it recorded, because I'd like to bet my house the Australians would play that interview before they played this game. It's a strange thing. Nothing feels you better than to have someone tell you you're not that good.
Well, I interviewed Liz the other day, and she certainly had some clear ideas about how to play Irene. Certainly came into this match with a plan. (14-8). South Australia digging in at the end of this first quarter.
Well, we'll see what kind of heart South Africa have, because they have a while to recover now. 6-7 they trail.
Sweet goal from Jennifer Borlase.
And I don't see any chinks in the armour of Australia. It's a very well-prepared, well-focused team. Again.
Ellis runs it down. Just a touch from her teammates up the court.
And they back play till they can find the front, and it's Cusack who releases it.
Strong hands from Cusack. Then O'Donnell. Now Borlase. Australians playing on the edge, but in control. Magnificent effort. Right up the court.
Well, after a nervous start, Cusack nailing them now. Ellis turns it over. Cusack there down court deep. O'Donnell juggles it. But look at the options and the speed now as they turn it to Darwood.
Australia working the width of the court beautifully. And they kick it out to 17-8. Touch over a minute left, first quarter. And Cusack has not missed. Hansale to Keevy. Harbison. Now struggling to get it to the circle. Nice move from Keevy. Took Ellis out of play, really, with the fake.
Van Dijk, her accuracy there, 7 from 8. It's just possession they're lacking.
Good take from Harbison. Certainly had position on O'Donnell there. About 30 seconds to go, first quarter.
And look at the halting play through the middle for South Africa. Australia defending like their lives depended on it.
Well,
certainly their title does.
They want to deprive them of a 10th goal here. Up they
she
go.
Goes.
Ellis.
Herculean effort from Ellis.
She's having a screamer first quarter, and she has denied South Africa a last goal in the first quarter, and that is a super first 15 minutes from Australia. And they lead South Africa in the final 17-9. And Murphy and Catherine Harvey, who've all played their part here across a long campaign. 9 matches before this one. Second quarter begins. Australia by 8.
And McInnes getting the first touch. As you say, often doesn't get the accolades she deserves, but she's the workhorse in the team.
Clean ball in for Van Dijk, and they make, or do they? Yeah, she retrieves. She's pretty quick on her feet for such a tall person, a useful indoor cricketer.
It's only a second miss of the match. She's sitting on 80% with 8 from 10. Yes, I heard an English supporter yesterday berating her because it was a static game with the ball put up to her, but I think they underestimate that she is very mobile and a fine athlete. She's simply playing to tactics that have been established by their team.
Cloppers.
Nobody onto the forward ball. Their captain, Hammond, now rescues them.
South African ball, and Hammond will take it. Good stretch from Ellis, put the pressure on Van Dijk. It's Australia's ball, I think. Just a little confusion. Margaret Deegan and Jan Carlton couldn't make themselves heard. Smart ball in from Cusack. She just stopped on the drive a bit, but still Borlase was able to deliver a decent pass.
Van Zyl with a heavy contact load around the outside of the circle. The penalty count on her has been very high from Carlton's end, and now Deegan, the English umpire, also using the whistle. Hammond with the throw. Again, it's not to the space behind.
Contact, penalty pass, South Africa.
Contact against Carissa Dalwood. Dominic Harbison takes it. Harmon, Keevy.
3 feeders working for South Africa. Keevy working as a third.
Contact on the arm, keeper, penalty pass, South Africa.
Contact against Ellis. Couple of minutes gone, second quarter. South Africa making a good start here. Lead this quarter 2-1.
And also in background, I can see Tessa Halgren warming up behind the South African bench. So perhaps a change coming to their defensive circle as Australia spoils yet another chance for South Africa.
Ellis again working the magic in goal for Australia in defence.
Oh, the ball's there to Cusack, but they go through Darwood, who stumbles into the circle. Was quick thinking to put the ball down, but too much momentum.
Contact centre, penalty South Africa.
And that was Carissa Doward introducing herself to Harbison.
Not too subtle.
No. Oh, Ellis at full stretch, great position. She's working overtime.
Floppers put teammates under pressure. Kiwi took it well.
Hookie out will release the pressure on the feed somewhat. There's a 2-on-1 that Ellis has to cope with, and the screen offered by Van Dijk for Kiwi. Rather unusual choice, I thought. I'd have had it the other way around, but still it works. And South Africa chasing.
Well, it's a 3-1 start to the quarter for South Africa.
Good effort from O'Donnell, but she just put the body in on the way to the ball. Oh, quicker delivery. And I think lucky to come away with that contact, but you can see that the release from the South African feeders is much quicker than in the first, so they've been told, get rid of the hesitation.
So the lead was 8 at quarter time. It's back to 5. South Africa coming back. It certainly have been premature to write South Africa off. Yeah, Cusack, very smart. Streetwise there, played it off the South African. She knew she was off balance.
I'm in Sydney. There was probably a toast to her for that sneaky play. Interesting to see that Halgren is warming up. I mean, they've only just taken the court for the second quarter. It's an unusual time to give an instruction at the end of one when you've got a whole quarter to go. It's a long time to warm up.
Harbison, Hammond, Kiwi, and Van
Good
Dijk.
hands from Van Dijk. And again, I have to say the speed of the ball to Van Dijk has improved.
Settling into this match, South Africa. Got a contest now. O'Donnell, Cusack, quick hands.
Great drive from Borlase into the circle.
Delightful finish from Borlase.
And don't you wish you understood Afrikaans now to know what was said in that huddle?
Yeah, well, they certainly made some improvement. Simone McInnes trying to convince the umpire it should have gone the other way.
Oh, slammed into Van Dijk from Kiwi. The 5 not quite as comfortable.
With South Africa converting more readily, Australia needs to treasure their every possession.
The advantage played for Australia on that shot. Cusack, 100%, 9 from 9.
What a time to improve your stats. She was 75, 78% through the rounds.
I thought we'd called her missing the first shot of the match, so
yeah.
I'm obviously carried away with the excitement. But I prefer that stat for us, so thank you.
South Africa looking much more composed in this second quarter. Oh, ambitious ball.
Oh, Borlase. I thought they were over, but she's put it through.
Draws a smile from Jenny Borlase. That was a ripper. Under pressure.
Cusack winds the arm up, puts it with great speed, and Borlase able to keep the toenail off the line. Again, here it comes. She just stays in, rotates the body, gives it some height.
22-16. 7 minutes gone. Second quarter.
Crowd would still be talking about that last goal from Borlase.
Goal of the match so far.
Cusack using the baseline really well for Australia. They just can't match Australia's speed nor the directional changes Borlase and Cusack can offer.
Plenty of people back home saw the Australia-New Zealand match, and Borlase at an absolutely crucial time had to step up for the injured Vicky Wilson, and Australia secured the 45-44 win over New Zealand. It could have been the end of the tournament right there. It effectively was for New Zealand.
And just as you're talking, Steve, Darwood doing her best to hold her ground as she was really run over, but she's the one put out of play. I think they're saying she was causing it. She had a little opportunity to get out of the way.
Van Dijk.
That's about as close as you're going to get to the goalpost.
A bit over halfway through this quarter. Cusack.
Pass or shot? Pass or shot?
And Australia are only able to hold South Africa at this stage. A question of them pulling away further. Kiwi. Fanzel.
A good decision not to let that one go, because Cusack was closing in from behind the ball as well.
Kiwi has a go from long range.
Well, look at the pressure from Filkey, but she hammers that one home. She's not a pretty shooter to watch, but that was an effective one. Pressure from Filkey, but she gives it some air. Almost sat back and had a look at the directions, more like a golf swing, that was.
Cusack takes the step in. If you looked at some stats through the rounds, South Africa scored 672 goals for, 398 against. Australia, about the same number for, 666, a few less, but 100 less conceded.
Contact keeper, penalty pass, South Africa.
So I think that Australia has the better defence.
I think that's what we've been saying in previews, that whilst it will be difficult for the Australian defence, they have the ability to disrupt South Africa's attack, but we couldn't quite imagine South Africa's defence causing havoc for our girls.
Dalwood.
Contact goal defence, pass or shot, right on the edge of the circle.
And the screen there set up by ball layers with the movement from Cusack forces a contact against Kloppers.
Still Australia by 6. 5:20 left, second quarter.
Contact wing attack.
No offers from the circle. Van Dijk, no thought of leaving the circle. And all other leads away from their skipper.
Cusack out to O'Donnell. Bourlays.
Oh, how sweet is the Australian goal circle running?
Wilson, Avellino, McIntosh, and Sarah Sutter. Australia by 7. They can make a bit of an improvement on the margin here. Being held at 6 for a long time. McInnes, O'Donnell. Defence in the midcourt from South Africa certainly improved in this quarter end.
Yes, they've come out with a new passion. And you have to consider as you're watching just how much ground they have made from earlier this year. I mean, they're a far superior team than that toured Australia and New Zealand early in the year.
Bourlays takes the shot. Kloppers really attracting a lot of whistle when the ball gets down into that circle. Harmon. Kiwi, oh, McInnes nearly. Ellis back on Van Dijk.
If in doubt,
well, put the pressure on the feed. Ellis wasn't in the play. The work was done elsewhere, and Australia get the result. Smart ball from Dalwood. O'Donnell. Kloppers again. Transgressors. It's a healthier score for Australia. 4 on end towards the end of the quarter, and maybe it is at the end of quarters, Anne, where Australia may be able to put the foot down if their fitness is better than South Africa's.
Well, I think you can't doubt their fitness. The other thing they have to their advantage is a long history of playing this type of game, a game where you really have to have the concentration and the fitness into the last couple of minutes of each quarter to earn a win. Australia's used to it, so too New Zealand. South Africa really new kids on the block.
Harbison for Van Dijk.
Well, she didn't waste any time putting that one up. It was a confident shot.
Filkey. McInnes. O'Donnell.
Lots of offers there from Australia. They're just taking their time to find the space.
Offside, free pass inside the circle.
Fanzel was offside.
Advantage contact.
And again, with the South Africa offering a 2-on-1 on ball ace, Cusack quick to make them pay, works the top of the circle, does a double up with O'Donnell.
Cusack shooting is a real bonus for Australia today. can mark Borlase as tightly as they please, I think. And Cusack will make up for that.
Obstruction, wing defence, penalty pass.
South Africa, a slightly older side than the Australians, average age of 30. Australia 27. Kiwi. Ellis runs
strong
it down.
work from the Australian circle defenders. They're really sitting back off Kiwi's shot, making her put it up, holding to the last.
Arms up from South Africa, though, turning it over. Harmon.
Ellis working to keep Van Dijk far from the post. Oh, nearly too much on it. Still a smile on her face.
Well, if those posts were secured in the floor, they wouldn't rattle around that much. Certainly got the shutter on.
That ball just beyond the reach of Ellis. A lot on it from Van Dijk, but it drops.
Harmon, last minute.
This game's still being played at a frantic pace as Ellis spoils another and comes away with the throw-in.
Filkey the step. Well, that's...
Inside.
Ellis again with the right position, and it's off the hands of Van Dijk.
Contact outside, penalty pass, South Africa.
Only just over 30 seconds on the clock.
Contact, goal defence, penalty
Australia, having built a 10-goal lead, having been held to 6 for much of the quarter, just have a couple knocked off it towards half-time. And South Africa still very much in this. Kloppers, Harvison, particularly if they can get another.
Well, they're wasting precious seconds.
The timekeeper's up.
Oh, well done, Australia. What pressure in defence.
And again, as they did at the end of the first quarter, Australia denies South Africa what would have been quite a boost. Another goal. But Australia, as they did at quarter time, lead by 8. It's 31-23.
Girls in together, or whether they'll just hover. Umpires and the timer have made that decision for them.
And a few more seconds. Now we're right, beginning the third quarter, with Australia leading by 8, as they were at quarter time. O'Donnell was under some pressure, but got a great feed away for Cusack, and Australia first to score in the third.
Look at the stats there. The accuracy from Australia, 14 from 16. South Africa 2.
All the damage done in the first quarter when Australia had 10 more opportunities to score than their opponents. So the goal is doing a good job second quarter at both ends. Cusack, Borlase. Haldren into the game with a contact, and Borlase a goal.
Borlase obviously relishing the opportunity to take over as Australia's #1 shooter, 77%. She's been in wonderful form. And you have to envy Australia with the variety of shooters they have. Wilson, Borlase, Avelino, Cusack, and others sitting at home, all of whom can boast high statistics. Van Dijk there with 20 from 22.
Right up there with the 89 she's been giving us. Oh, Borlase and Cusack. But it was nearly a valuable touch from Haldren. Australia looking for a turnover. South Africa to make some ground.
Kiwi been under so much pressure.
Oh, Dawood.
Great steal from Dawood.
Wasn't much of a pass, doesn't matter now. Borlase. The pace of Carissa Dawood created that turnover.
Offload there, the touch, and that's a previous play earlier on when we thought Haldren may well have come away with the intercept.
And
this
Dawood.
one, though, a screamer from Dawood, and threw it at the ground just to keep it in play.
Contact wing defence.
Australia by 10, early in the third quarter. 11, I'm sorry. Van Zyl, Hammond, and yes for Van Dijk. And she's playing well. She's doing all she can, but as we knew they'd have to, Australia has been denying them up the court.
Popper's giving Cusack far too much room in field play. She really needs to deny her space and make her work harder to get into the circle. Coming too easily for the Australian attack line now, and it's danger time for South Africa.
Filkey's calling for a 15-goal margin at the next break. They're getting close. 12 minutes left, third quarter. Filkey thought about going for it. Van Dijk too tall, and the feed too good.
A strong hold from Van Dijk then, and she used the space well.
Down goes O'Donnell. How's the umpire see that?
Well, Dan Carlton doesn't consider it to be a contact, so it'll just become a throw-in. Chance for South Africa to peg one back, but they spoil it.
McInnes to Dalwood. Bit cramped on this side. Dalwood.
A quick hands from Cusack. Little step to clear some room around Poppers.
Well, there aren't too many sides with hands this quick. That's the error. Australia by 11 and with the ball.
Advantage of touch and goal attack.
Cusack.
Contact,
Dalwood.
Contact, goal defense.
O'Donnell at this tournament and quickly answered any doubts about whether she'd fully recovered from her back injury, and a great tribute to her because she was in a lot of trouble.
She certainly was, and then to step out for 2 weeks on a concrete floor is going to sort out a good back, let alone a weak one. So she's really come through well, and the faith that was put in her has been returned tenfold.
Shelley O'Donnell was selected late last year to be in this squad, then had to recover from a back injury, didn't play against South Africa in February. Was given the opportunity to prove her fitness about a month before they left, and she did that and has played a brilliant tournament. Van Dijk.
Contact before the whistle, wing attack, penalty pass.
Debbie Harmon. Kind of a nothing ball for Harvison.
She thought the better of that as she let it go.
Contact, goal defense.
Well, Filkey saw that and was closing the space. I consider that a fair contest, but often viewed by other whistles that if it's from behind, it's not on.
Ellis didn't do a bad job there, 1-on-2. Contact awarded against her, though.
In fact, I was just thinking the only ball she conceded to Van Dijk, she got up and had a touch at the shot. Australia using the last 2 days before this final well. They've stayed in their routine of the athletes' village and just rested, had some dabbles in a swimming pool.
They didn't get a lot of sleep last night, apparently, as Ellis goes up again and the contact goes against Van Dijk.
They're out of the hands.
It's the teams that had finished their playing commitments yesterday whooped it up a bit last night, and South Africa and Australia still with a match to play. Had a fairly disturbed night, I understand.
And South Africa, by comparison to Australia, took themselves away from the usual routine, off to London to get away from hype and media and distractions.
Ball A's, and the lead out to 11 again.
Contact, goal defense, penalty, centre third.
Contact against Filkey. Van Zyl steps up to take it. Kiwi.
Contact, South Africa centre, penalty, Australia.
And that's against Harvison off the ball. A turnover that South Africa didn't need. McInnes to O'Donnell. Even when they look like there's no time, the Australians make it.
Barnett.
Halgren comes down with a rebound. Kiwi up for
Contact keeper, pass or shot.
Van Dijk, and Ellis backed into it.
I'm taking a new approach, one closer to ground level. Thought, though, the time to give the ball to Van Dijk was about a couple of passes earlier.
Halgren at the other end.
Side.
Now ball ace. I have to say, Australia has really shown no sign of any pressure out there since the first few minutes. And really, it was only about a year ago that South Africa was getting a taste again of international netball. So they're really down on international experience compared to teams like Australia.
I think the crowd expecting that would be a penalty against Carissa Dawood, but the umpire elected to toss. South Africa coming away with possession, but again they've spoilt their opportunity.
Ellis to Filkey to Dawood.
See there the challenge from Dawood. Halgren, I think, though, with the first possession.
Obstruction, penalty pass.
It's against Halgren. Hello, Guernsey, in the Channel Islands. Hope they're watching.
Contact, wing attack. Contact, goal defence, penalty pass, Australia.
Annie Klopper's really having no joy against Nicole Cusack. She's been in chase position most of the game, and I don't think she's seen too much clean interception. Cusack saving her best for when it counts, and Australia, you could forgive them if they were becoming a little excited and thinking about some fingerprints on a world title.
Contact, Australia, centre, penalty, South Africa.
They lead by 13. I think the crowd's gone a little bit quiet. The margin gets beyond 10, and it's hard to see a way back.
I think most have settled back to enjoy and delight in the skills of Australia, indeed of both teams. It's still torrid on court, and the pace is still quite fierce.
Contact, keeper, penalty pass.
Well, that was a 50-50 ball, I would have thought. That seemed hard on Tessa Halgren.
Contact,
Klopper's
penalty
laid.
pass.
Australia looking very composed. Jenny Borlase back in 1991.
Contact, defence, penalty, South Africa.
Couldn't get a start with the on-court 7 in the final. Was part of the squad and given her chance here.
Okay.
After the injury to Vicky Wilson, hasn't she played well?
Oh, superbly. She's really picked up the responsibility. Nicole Cusack, too, not amongst the Australian squad in 91. She couldn't get a look in, and now showing off.
Borlase, Dalwood.
Contact, penalty pass, Australia.
They're just a bit clumsy in their defence hand.
Yes, I find they're not very good at covering a change of direction, and sometimes they commit too late.
We saw yesterday in the playoff for third some brilliant defensive work from Bernice Menny and Sharon Gold of New Zealand playing England, where for 8 minutes in the third quarter they didn't allow the English a goal. I mean, if they had played like that against South Africa or against Australia, it may have been a different story here.
Well, I think for many of us, the match between Australia and New Zealand really has been the final of the championships. It was just placed some, 8 or 9 days too early. Don't mention the draw. As confusion reigns in the mid-court. And Australia put another nail in South Africa's coffin.
Oh, straight to Kloppers. Harmon.
Contact, wing defence, penalty, South Africa.
Harvison really electing to take the wrong space on that drive. The move was down court.
Harvison got a solid knock in that last contact. See if we can see.
McInnes with inside position. Hard to see what...
That's a Geelong hip and shoulder, I think.
So that's what was in the facts.
I'm sure she'll be all right in a minute.
In fact, the Australian girls telling me that they can virtually line the walls and the ceilings and the floors of all the corridors and all the rooms at the university here in Birmingham. So many faxes have they received.
Here in the third quarter, much more possession for Australia, putting up 17 shots to South Africa's 10. They're shooting 90% South Africa, but they need more ball.
Indeed, look at the accuracy all round.
Ellis.
That's incredible shooting in a World Championship final under pressure.
Liz Ellis again. Well, Australian netball fans have followed Liz's progress since we picked her up in the National League with the Institute of Sport. Here she goes.
Instruction, penalty pass. Taken. Count the goal.
I think Irene van Dijk is going to emerge from this match with a new respect for Australia's defence. Harbison to Kiwi. Michelle Filkey has her 15-goal margin that she was after.
And that's what I tipped, so could we stop the game now? I'm on a pound or 10 pound. I got the jitters when I woke up this morning and dropped it from 20-something back down to 15th. But, oh, look, they could be nervous. And I just like to say to the lady in my touring party that took the bets, I've changed my mind. I'd like to go back to 23 again, thanks.
Well, it's back to 14. You see her total goals for the championship. She is the most successful shooter here in terms of volume. Oh, Cusack.
Beautiful play from Australia, and look at the Kiwis applauding them. That was Golden Blair left of camera, delighted with Australia's play.
Sending a wave back home as they see themselves on the big screen here at the indoor arena.
Not quite as delighted, Marlene Wagner, coach for South Africa. And Steve, so many supporters arrived on tours and in groups, having missed the Australia-New Zealand match, and shattered that they wouldn't see the two teams contest. But I don't think there's anyone disappointed watching this final.
Back further. No, back. Back goal defence, please.
IFNA has conceded their flaws in the draw, and it will be a different looking championship in 4 years from now. It'll be reduced to 16 teams. There will be semi-finals, perhaps quarter-finals. And I think, particularly for the top dozen teams, a lot fairer draw. There was room to make an error or two when Trinidad, Tobago and South Africa, both strong teams, came into this tournament unseeded. And just the way events unfolded, the wash-up was it wasn't a very fair draw for a couple of teams. Van Dijk.
Australia.
The umpires are sorting out who is actually on court there. It is Australia and South Africa, and it's Australia by 16, last minute, third quarter.
Contact with the ball keeper.
Oh, it's a good jump from Halgren, but contact, I think, on the second move she made.
So Klopper's drawing unnecessary whistle. Really, she's been guilty of that a lot, and has made it easy. He's been there the whole fortnight.
A jump there, and I think it's a second move, contact on the ball just then, that the penalty was called for. The first was a nice move.
Yeah, good timing on the first challenge.
Contact goalkeeper, pass or
Van
shot.
Dijk, front position this time.
I'm sure that's going through Lizzie Ellis's mind now. I'll be front on the next one.
16 the lead. And timekeeper's up for the end of the third quarter. A 3-second call and then a time call for the end of the third quarter. And Australia has responded to their captain's request to kick that lead out to 15 or better. And it's indeed 16. Cusack having a whale of a game, as is Liz Ellis at the end. Just a few seconds away from the start of the last quarter. Australia leads it by 16. Straight away a mistake from South Africa. It was not the start they needed. McInnes to O'Donnell to Dalwood. And Cusack had a foot over the line. So a loose start from both teams. Hansel. Kloppers. Hammond now. Hugo. Good quick hands into Van Dijk. You can bet South Africa will be looking to win this final quarter. I won't be giving this up as a lost cause. Dalwood.
Contact keeper, pass or shot.
Ball goes against Halgren. It was a pretty ambitious sort of last resort feed in for Cusack.
Yes. Halgren has made a good effort since she's been on the court. I think Kloppers really is the one that's been killed in this game. and also denied very much has been Fanzal on wing defence. She's seen a lot more ball in other matches. South Africa try to penetrate the mid-court, but having a lot of difficulty breaking through the defence of Australia, and that ball swung quickly, but the placement so wrong.
Well, Ellis didn't have to do too much to take that intercept. A lazy ball across the baseline for Borlase, but there was only one player who was going to get it, and that was a teammate. Hugo in the game.
So flat, it was only ever going to go to Liz Ellis.
Cusack shooting over Kloppers, who played the Australian series at wing defence and has played all of this series at goal defence. And she hasn't really been the answer for them. Dalwood just lost the handle on it. It was a bit casual with the pickup.
Look at the support play for Australia. 2 offers off the centre pass. Beautiful movement into the circle. And Borlase not letting them down on any occasion. She's had a fine match in goals. Really rising to the occasion of the toughest game to play in the world in netball, the final.
South Africa have to score quickly. I sense that urgency in Risa Hugo's play since coming on at goal attack. But South Africa, until this match, had never scored less than 58 in this tournament. That was against Trinidad and Tobago when they won 58-49. But they'll be struggling to get to 50 against this defence.
Well, they have to rush the pace all round. You can expect them to run it back to the centre to try and play their centres quickly. The problem they have is they can't make Australia do something they don't want to do, and Australia's timing attack is just getting better and better with the game.
Filkey follows Hugo around, gives up the contact. Hugo.
Again, it's dropped short to Van Dyke. There was loads, tons of room above her and behind her.
Well,
with the ball, penalty pass.
I want to hear what Irene has to say about Liz Ellis. Cusack.
Oh, beautiful move from Borlase, but she can't haul it in.
Halgren. Pansale. Another contact against Carissa Dalwood. She's had a good battle with Harbison. I have to say, I think Margaret Keegan and Jan Carlton have done a pretty good job in a pressure match as the umpires. There haven't been too many disputed calls or much for us to argue with them about. And you know, I'd like to have a go.
I know, I was waiting for that. No, I think they've very quickly established that they've removed the contact from the game, particularly around the circles. And some of the clumsy challenges we've seen, they've been onto very quickly. I mean, you just have to look at how Kloppers has been restricted, and also both Potzer and Halgren.
10 and a bit to go. Australia by 18. Van Dyke.
Instruction, penalty pass, count the goal.
Australia's centre pass. Dalwood not in a major hurry. Well, that was under some pressure that Cusack took that, but it's freed up Dalwood. Now O'Donnell.
Offside. Contact goal defence, pass or shot.
Yeah, it was well played, Australia, and Kloppers was just too late to put in a legal challenge on Borlase. And some Aussies there, pretty pleased with what's unfolded here at the indoor arena.
Well, I think it'll be a deserved win, apart from dispute regarding the draw and the disappointment for New Zealand. Australia, irrespective of any other team's performance, has gone through undefeated. They've prepared well. They've risen to the tough challenges, and even the ones that were perhaps not immaculate, like Jamaica, they got through and toughed it out, so they're well deserving.
Well, I really think against Jamaica, they built a match-winning lead, then they coasted home a bit, making sure they didn't get any more injuries, because that was a week ago. They still had 3 tough matches. Well, Irene's got to get rid of it quickly. She knew the time you spend on the floor with the ball in your hand is still part of the 3 seconds. And it's good to see that smile.
and stumbles in the air, realizes she's got only 3 seconds to get up and she can't deliver from the ground, and she's all smiles. She's down again. Maybe we should bring in a new statistic. Oh, strong rebound. She threw herself at that one. There are a few she misses and she won't concede them.
And still shooting at 89%. What a terrifically consistent effort from Irene van Dijk. Borlase needs an option. McInnes under pressure. Harmon the contact. Dalwood has it. We've got 8 minutes to go.
Cusack just a touch casual on that, but can you blame them? 57-42. They played their way into Australia's 7th world title, 7 out of a possible 9. So world titles meaning a lot to Australian netball. The 7th in the long line of successful teams. 1991 perhaps the most outstanding in a long history.
Van Dijk. And South Africa actually winning this last quarter. I guess hard for the Australian 7 to maintain the kind of effort they've put in when they know that really the match is won. Van Dijk. They won't like the way the margin is being chipped away, though.
Contact wing defence, penalty Australia. Goal third. Goal third.
Australia hasn't scored for a while. O'Donnell, Dalwood. Chance for Cusack. McIntosh, Natalie Avellino on one side, Sarah Sutter on the other, both from Adelaide. You know, Jill McIntosh has had a kind of a luxury. I mean, to take out the injury to Vicky Wilson, but really the starting 7 has made itself obvious. Really, I mean, she's had plenty of support from the bench players, but not too many selection problems for Jill McIntosh.
No, I think we have the versatility in the line to play several different combinations, but this one really has screamed, particularly a lineup that gets through that match against New Zealand. It's hard to deny them the opportunity to play out a final. And I think we were talking about it on my bus as we approached Birmingham, and it's the lineup we came up with.
And you've got to come here with some depth because, especially on this court surface, which is just a rubber mat over concrete, it's very tiring on the legs. So you need 12 fit, versatile players.
As you said earlier, with the exception of Wilson, who would have been probably your first on court, the others in their positions have demanded the attention of Jill McIntosh. McInnes, one of those. Fine game on wing defence.
They punish South Africa for the turnover. McInnes never lets the team down.
Harvison puts it up, but McInnes sitting good position, front position on Debbie Hammond.
Contact, wing attack, penalty pass.
And that one goes against the South African captain. McInnes giving Australia a beautiful ball from Darwood. You could see the play opening up. Borlase freeing the baseline for Cusack. One of the best of the game, 60.
And there'll be some celebrations tonight, I think.
Beautiful ball. You could just see the space opening up on the midline there. Borlase creating it. Yeah, I think it might be the Aussies keeping the others awake tonight.
Well, Australia now starting to kick it home. Ellis goes up once more.
Well, they're relentless, the Australians.
Darwood.
Again, beautiful position to the top of the circle. That one forced a little.
And she's having a little friendly chat to Van Dijk, and there aren't too many international sports where you'll see that kind of spirit at the top. And they are good friends off the court, Liz Ellis and Irene van Dijk, and occasionally on it.
Well, while South Africa have probably enjoyed the contest, it has been a lesson for them from the world champions. As Ellis, you could see the stretch there on that right arm and the follow-up from her.
She had one hand up to Van Dijk's too, but her hand was in front. Cloppers. 4 minutes left. And it's Australia by 17. They may yet win the last quarter. Oh, threaded through two defenders to Borlase. She finishes. They're finishing in some style. Hit the doldrums in the middle of this last quarter with the match seemingly won. And aren't they kicking it home now? And they've just taken the ball out of court while watching that replay. McInnes picks up another loose one. Oh, they've got numbers up court. If Cusack can get to it, unmarked is Borlase at the post. And 19 the lead. Borlase and Cusack working beautifully together. The crowd appreciating some class netball here at the end of the match. Australia not content to coast home. Up in the corner is Borlase. Good contest from Halgren. Left for O'Donnell to take a pass.
Contact all defence, pass or shot.
Kloppers.
Contact keeper, pass or
clumsy
shot.
from behind. And Cusack. The lead is 20. They're holding back the enjoyment for another 2.5 minutes. When that final whistle goes, that bench will empty.
Contact centre, penalty pass, South Africa. Barnard obstruction.
Van Dijk. I do admire the spirit in which this final has been played as Borlase goes for 66. There's not been a terse word or an ugly incident out there. South African players have found themselves in one or two controversial press conferences this week. There have been grillings about the acceptance of black players into South African netball. But the players have always put in a very fair performance on the court, whatever dramas there may be off them. 19 the lead. 90 seconds to go.
Obstruction, pass or shot. Contact all defence, pass or shot both.
Margaret Putris, if you're watching back in Australia still, congratulations on bringing Australian netball to this point. 2 World Championships back-to-back, 91 and 95.
Simultaneous.
Across the court, Van Zyl with Kloppers, and now Hugo in for Van Dijk.
Contact with the ball, penalty pass.
And a contact against Filkey. Uh, 67-47.
Granting obstruction.
And we're inside the last minute.
Toss-up, please. Simultaneous contact, goal shooter, goalkeeper.
And Halgren and Borlase
Side straight, please.
with the toss-up set by Deegan. Just half a minute. Well, I don't think Jenny Borlase can keep the smile back for much longer. A little collision there between Van Zyl and O'Donnell. Cusack, unmarked. Timekeeper gets out of a chair. Halgren takes the last rebound of the match. Hamann, Harvison, Hugo up for Van Dijk. Does not get to take the shot. And Australia wins the World Netball Championship for the 7th time. (68-48). Happy faces among the Australians again, as there was in 1991 in Sydney, winners in Birmingham in 95.